All right, Justin, I got Eric on the call with us as well. We'll wait for the acquisition guy to join in. So let's just go through real quick before I start bringing up the modeling, just a little bit about this deal, just, a little 2-minute overview on what it is that you thought it was going to be and what you thought you were going to do with it and sort of, what you're dealing with now and now what you're going to have to do with it or not do with it.
Okay. So yeah, the overview was it's a house in Lexington, Tennessee, which is about 2 hours from Memphis, 2 hours from Nashville. It's kind of in the nowhere. We got an ARV on it of about 140,000. We thought the repairs, the guy wasn't really truthful in what the house needed. So we thought the repairs were going to be in like the $10,000-$15,000 range. He had a mortgage, him and his ex-wife have a mortgage balance of 54,300 estimated. And then we got them a walk away of 7,000. Originally, what we were going to do with the property was we were either going to put, some lipstick, kind of carpet and paint kind of situation, and then put it back out there. And my first go-to was, we have so much room there, I'm just going to list it and see what we can get without doing anything to it.
So how are you going to take, how are you planning on taking this down, with cash?
I was going to pay cash. Yeah.
You're going to use your own cash.
Yes.
To buy it and fix it, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But the 7,000 plus closing costs plus remodel, because you get to take over their existing debt, correct?
Yes, it was going to be a total purchase price of 61,300, and then we had an estimated, again, before we got into it, we had an estimated of 10 to 15.
So what was that? So in your initial analysis, what were you hoping to net on this deal? How much time was it going to take you, and how long, and how much were you thinking you were going to make?
It was probably going to take a total turnaround of about 60 days from purchase to rehab and listing and getting all that done. And
how much cash?
61 plus 15, so 76.
So you're going to do 70, you're going to invest 76,000 is the investment.
And and what
was the profit that you think?
Not the greatest profit, but it was going to be around 40,000.
Okay. And then potentially this is when you modeled it, right?
Yeah, that was the initial model.
Okay, I'm just writing this over here. Potential profit. That's what you thought it was going to be. Okay,
that's what we thought it was going to be, which is it's an okay deal. It's what I'm kind of typically used to doing. After we had the inspection, we realized that house was nowhere near as good a shape as they claimed it to be, and it was going to be easily $40,000 worth of work.
Okay. So that puts you in a no deal situation right now. It is based on you doing it, right? Because if you were going to go put the 40,000 into it, does the ARV change on that house?
No,
doesn't change at all, right? So basically, they're asking full retail then, because your profit was going to be 40. You were going to put 40 in, and you had 15 initially. So that would have been was it $25,000 difference?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not putting that much work into making maybe 20.
Well, plus it's not going to take you 60 days to probably do that either. You're probably going to have to add at least another 30 days to it, right? Give or take.
Right.
All right. So now we know that that's not the case. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pull up the model, and I'm going to share my screen with you and sort of go through maybe how we can potentially save this deal. So give me 1 second to do that here.
When you hey Nick, when you share your screen, does it keep going back and forth, or are you talking, or will it stay on the screen?
No, it'll stay on once I share it. So hang on 1 second. Just got to pull it up.
What's up, Paul? What's up, Russ?
All right, here we go.
Hey, Eric.
All right, so can you guys see my screen now? The spreadsheet? Yes. Okay, so basically what I've done is we built this. It's like a buy, sell summary spreadsheet. Okay, so I don't even know if this is this even going to be a viable deal even under this potential strategy, but that's why we do this, to see if it's a deal or no deal, right? So what I have over here is I'm just going to run through this stuff really quickly. I found the mortgage information it's a little bit off of what you said, but for illustration purposes, it'll be just fine. So so everything in the blue is stuff that we fill in. Everything that's in the gray is a calculation. So the first thing that we filled in is the unpaid balance, which when I ran the mortgage, the amortization based on the origination date, I found that, and I calculated the rate at 3.96. The payment's $299 a month. The original contract, the contract price is a sum of the UPB and the seller's cash requirement. So I've got UPB about 51,000. What do you think it was? More or less than that?
He said it was more. He said it was 54,300.
Okay, but you don't know that for a fact because he hasn't proved it to you yet, correct?
Correct. We've asked for the mortgage statement, but
All right, you know what I'm gonna do for I'm just gonna put it in here just because it'll make it even it'll change it a little bit, which is fine. So let's go through this. So you have this maturity date of 4/42. Conventional loan, first bank, okay. Seller cash requirement is 7,000. There's no agent fees on this, right? No agent fee.
No, we're not purchasing.
You're not
through an
paying
agent.
anybody. You're not paying
You're
anybody.
direct to seller.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're not going to use any repairs for this example. There's nothing in the arrears, right?
As
Then
far as we know.
What's that?
As far as we
Far as
know,
you
there's
know.
nothing in arrears.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, I got just a formula. We calculate closing cost on the buy at 1.5%. Closing cost on the sell side. There's a formula for that. Buyer agent fee, we put at 3% when you go to sell it. Okay. If you sell it yourself, go to your bottom line. So the absolute minimum cost cash to close in this example is $12,555. Now, knowing where this property is located, knowing what you know about the repairs, we would like to take this down probably in a sub 3, not a sub 2, because we want to make sure that it's going to fly, right? Because we're making the assumption here that we can sell this to a buyer without fixing it. I think we can, because I've sold burnouts before. I sold 3-sided houses before. I've sold dilapidated trailers before on terms, but it's just a function of price. Okay. So that would put our total buy price at 66,855, which is a combination of all the cost of capital, closing cost, whatever it is. So I set the retail value at 140. So if we take the 140 and we wipe out the repairs dollar for dollar, and we use your $40,000 number, then that means the retail price or the value on that property is about $100,000, right?
Right.
40, and it needs 40 in repairs. We wipe out 40. So I think that we can sell that probably, if the numbers are accurate, at $100,000 as is. Okay. If we go down here, and I'm only going to use, I didn't fill in these other numbers because we're selling it as is. We could have got the retail numbers, and maybe if the retail number on realtor.com was 150, then that would change us to 110 and so on. Right. But one number is fine for this example. Rent value is $1,400. I just put it in there just as a identifier for we can see where we're going with profitability. But as we go through this, I set the owner finance value at, it's a formula. I use 3% of average of the fair market retail value. Okay, as it is. I'm only going to use $5,000 down payment on this because there's so much work that needs to be done. That borrower is going to need to have some cash to do the repairs. Okay.
Yep.
So that would make this loan amount $98,000. Okay. As we go down here, I'm in this middle section here, if you can follow my cursor. So if I write a 75% first and I get 4.85% down, the difference on the second is going to be $20,750. So if you add up those three numbers, $5,000 cash, $77,250 and $20,750, that adds up to this $103,000. Follow me?
Yep.
Okay. So now why did I do that? Okay. Well, I did it because we know that for a fact that this is a sub 3 situation. Sub 2 might be another option, but we know that this is short-term debt because you've already expressed that the seller doesn't want to have this out for a long period of time, if at all. Right.
Right.
So this is
Right.
the offer we're going to come back. So we're going to write a first lien at 9.5% and a second lien at 10.5%. Okay.
Hey, Nick, real quick. Sorry, on the subject too, if you take over their existing debt, do they care how long you have it or
Yeah, that's what we just said. They don't want it out there at all.
they don't.
No, that's
The
why we're using, that's why we're doing it this way so that we can create that first lien
Okay.
and the ability to get out of the deal whenever need be. So
Which is the model which is the model to do with little to no risk. So keep going. Sorry about that.
yeah, but if the seller would allow them to keep the debt in place,
Then it's up
we're
to
going to
you.
show
Yeah.
what the cash flow is. And
Yeah.
maybe they buy an extension every 6 months or every year. Say,
Yeah,
I'll give
yeah.
you $1,000 if you leave it there for another year, knowing that one extra year is going to generate $5,000 in cash flow. I don't know what
Yeah.
it is yet. We're going to figure it out, but let's
Yeah.
just continue to go through it. So if we model this out, the total payment on the in is $839 that we're collecting, $299 is going out. Okay. So what we need to determine here is that there's $12,555 of cash that's needed or required to do this whole transaction. So the first question is, are you going to use cash for it or are you going to borrow it? And I think you already said you'd probably use cash, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the cash. That's not
All
the
right.
problem.
All right. So, okay. So if you didn't have the cash, then that's what this little peach box is here, sort of like the gap funding, if you will, because this maybe, what
Yeah.
if this was $120,000, right? So what I'm
But
going to do
also
is
the reason he has the peach box is let's say hypothetically you look at this model, you're like, I'm gonna do 3 of these a week, and
Yeah.
I build up.
Right.
You're gonna
Yeah,
run out of the
you're going to run out of cash and you won't be able to do any more deals. So that's
Yeah.
why we showed
Right.
it. But since
Yeah.
we know we're not going to do that, I am going to just go in and delete out this this dollar value over here I'm just going to delete this number out right here and go to 0 because we're not going to use it, and that'll change the cash flow. So we're not going to use any private money. So now let's go over here to the deal summary. So what does all this mean? We're going to, if we buy it and we can get and not use cash and we can control the deal by leaving the debt in place, even if we only get them to agree to allow us to do it long enough to find our buyer, that's fine. That's the worst case scenario.
Find the
Best case
seller
is they
finance buyer or retail buyer.
let it leave it there for the length of the remaining 20 something years on the term. So what does the deal summary look like in this model? So we're looking at $5,000 cash, which comes in from the down payment. Okay. Now we put 12,000 out. So that means we're going to be invested after we close it about $7,500. We'll talk about that here in a second. So let's talk about the numbers coming in the cash flow. So since we're going to leave it where it sits right now, we'll get 650 coming in on the first lien, 190 on the second. The out is 299. So if we're able to leave this deal in place on a sub 2 or sub 3, the cash flow on that is $540 a month. Okay. The cost for us to generate that is $75.55. Well, if you divide the 75.55 by the cash flow, your return on your investment's about 9 months. Okay. Where you get to be cash neutral. Okay. So let's just say we don't have the 9 months, right? We don't have the 9 months because the seller said, I don't want it there. Maybe we get them to agree to it. So what do we have to do then? Well, then we can take that first lien that we wrote and we can sell it. And we write that for the first lien value is, I've got it here at 90. Actually, I'm going to adjust this for Tennessee here. Give me 1 second. Let's go down and be a little bit more conservative. I'm just going to put it in at 90 and see what happens.
The Tennessee numbers.
What's that?
The Tennessee numbers versus
I'm putting the Tennessee numbers in instead of the Texas numbers. So here we go. So that first lien has a face value of $77,000, but we're going to sell it at a discount and only get $69,500 for it. Okay. But when you do that, you still have the net cash from the first lien is still, because your cost basis on the first lien, which is over here, was 60. This is actually, I think, a wrong formula. Let me change that here. You're going to get 69. So what does this mean? You're going to get $69,000 in. Okay. So the cash difference is going to be how much, and we bought it at 66,855. So I'm going to put cash in over here. I forgot this line. So the cash in, the transactional cash in is going to be the difference of what you sell the first lien for minus basically your cost basis, your buy price. Remember, your buy price also includes your cash that you put in. So that is a number. Let me change this over here to a number. So basically what this is saying is that if you decided to create this deal, when you sell that note and you cash out of that first lien, you're still going to have made $2,600 net. That's the net number. So that means you got all your 12,500 back. Because remember, this 12,555 is the total that makes the buy price of 66,000, right? We just sold this first note at 69,000. So the difference between that, the net is $2,670. Okay, whatever. Okay. But now your cost basis is completely gone, right? You have no cost basis on this because the underlying debt got paid off to Wells Fargo or First Bank or whoever it is, because we took the 69,525 and what did we do with it? Well, we paid off this $54,000 balance. We reimburse ourselves
when you sell the note, correct?
When we sell the note. We're going to sell that note within a couple of weeks after we create it. Okay. That's why you got to pay the discount. So let's continue on with this. So then what else do we get? So now we would also get on this deal. We have now the first lien goes away. So we don't get the value of that anymore. So now we're going to get $190 a month in cash flow, right? Because that's a free and clear second lien for $20,750 at 10.5%. That's part of the profit on the deal. So the cash flow on that is going to be this $190 a month, which is this number right here. Okay. I don't know why that's a percentage. Change that there. Okay. Not a lot of money, but there again, you have zero cost basis. You have zero risk. You're completely out of the deal on a piece of shit house in the middle of Tennessee that you just controlled to create this. Okay.
But keep in mind, you just created a note at 9 and 10% interest, right? So God forbid the thing goes out 5 years, you guys are going to get a check for
here's
$20,000 on a deal that you're going to walk from. These little cash flows and 20,000 start coming in. You know, let's say you just put this in your business model, you know?
So here's your monthly cash flow, right? Here's your monthly cash flow is $540 a month. Okay. That's if you keep the underlying debt in place. If you don't keep the underlying debt in place, it's only $190. Follow me?
Yeah.
Because this is the arbitrage right here.
Mm-hmm.
So the question you need to ask yourself is that I'm making I can either make $540 a month and leave the debt in place, and then I can maybe give the seller a little bit of that $540.
Which is what I do. I always, if I know there's that much spread in the sub two, I just give them like,
well, the question becomes, what can you get them to stay in the deal? And here's why this is why it makes sense to keep them in the deal, because it's all about the equity. It's all about the principal pay down and the equity spread that's created over time, because you got a 10-year head start on this mortgage. So let's just pretend that this is a sub two deal. Okay. And that we don't have to get rid of that first lien right away. So let's just go down here. So I'm going to scroll down, and here's here's the summary right here, this little box right here. Okay. So what does it say? So we have, I'm projecting this out for 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Okay. So I didn't put the total cash in here, but the cash in is 2,670. So
no, that's cash out.
No, cash in, transactional cash.
Oh, cash in, they get the cash. Yeah.
This is the money, transactional.
If you sell it with 5,000 down.
Yeah, but this is never going to change. So this 2,670 is going to be because it's a one-time hit for the thing. Let me just copy this so we can just calculate this all. Okay. So whether we keep the property for 3 years before it's paid off, whether we keep it for 5 years, 10 years, or 2 days, the transactional cash is not going to change, right? Follow me?
Right.
All right.
Yep.
So now what does this mean? So as we go through this summary right here, let's just say we're able to keep the existing debt in place for 3 years. And we have our borrower makes the payments like they're supposed to. What does that value mean? Because right now, that's with keeping everything in place. So what's going to happen in 3 years, we're going to have the UPB, the unpaid balance, going out. And that's going to be 46,909, because when you look at the amortization table and you have a 3.96% interest rate, and it's already been paid for 10 years, the acceleration goes down a lot on the payoff. And that's why you'll see the difference in spread here. So if you look at these numbers, 3 years, your UPB in is still 101,249. So over that 3-year period of time, you're going to get $19,000 in cash flow. The payout difference, the equity position, is $73,000. And then the total transactional cash is the 2670. So the total, I'm just going to call it total in 3 years is going to basically be these three numbers right here. Okay. I don't know why formulas are not working for me today. So this plus, dang it, plus this minus this. Why are you doing this to me today?
I think you did it. You have UPB.
It's just, it's a sum. These are negative numbers here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's this, it doesn't matter. I already did the net cash right here. So it's actually just these 3 numbers. So it's these 3 numbers, this plus this.
Minus those 2.
No, it's already calculated. $95,000. Okay. So if I copy this down, these are the other summaries here. So let's just do this, paste. There you go. So right now, this is the key numbers right here. So if you're able to keep this debt in place, let's just look at it. 3 years, the total value of this transaction is $95,000. Okay. You're going to get all your cash back in 9 months, and then everything else, then your cash is neutral. Okay. So if you can get this seller to stay in this deal for 3 years, that's worth $95,000.
Hey, Nick, real quick.
Yeah.
The 3-year UPB in is 101. That's the total that's the debt that they owe them.
Yeah, because
right?
we wrote the note for 103.
So I understand. I think you had a miscalculation there, because I think you got the 101 minus the 101 UPB minus the 46 UPB is 55,000, plus the cash flow is 19,000 plus the 2.6. So it's really 76,000. That 73,000.
No, that should be the difference between these 2 numbers. But actually, I'm going to change this.
It should be 73 plus 26 is what it should be. Yeah, you're adding them 73,000. That's not right.
Oh, you're saying I added it twice.
Yeah.
Got it.
It should really be 73 plus the 2,600 is what your total cash flow is.
Yeah, gotcha. That's it.
Right?
Yes.
Because
that was the total cash.
I mean, let's just use simple math. 46 minus the 101. So you guys owe 46 minus this 101 that they owe you, right? When you created the note, that's 55,000 plus you got, $2,600. So that's really,
yes.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Plus because if you take 540 times 36 months, that's $19,000 in cash flow. Plus the 55,000 in difference between the UPB and what you paid, plus the 2,600, right? Yeah, so it's really like 7,500. It's like $75,000 on a dead deal that you guys.
Actually, it's going to be a little bit less than that. Let me just make this change real quick, because I changed this one number up top. I just want to make it consistent. So it's good, but it's still going to be really close. But I just like to keep it accurate.
The UPB is not going to get paid down that much.
No, I know, but the UPB is actually 98,000 because
yeah,
dollars down.
Yeah.
So
okay.
It's a little bit off, but still
the math's still phenomenal.
Exactly. So we're here. So if we leave it in place and you could talk the seller in, that's what I'm saying. Give the seller 3 months, 6 months, and then go back to them and say, hey, if I give you an extra $1,000, will you leave it for me another year? and then you do it again and
Yeah,
again.
so rather than, so what I do, I either give them a monthly payment. Some people just give them upfront money. So like on a deal like this, I'd say, hey, to keep the thing in place, I'll give you $100 a month perpetually, but you're gaining 300 a month amortization pay down. So you really don't
Right.
care, you know?
Yeah, maybe you just say every month I'll give you $100 for the next 30 days. And then when
Perpetually.
they stop taking the $100, then you can sell the first lien and
Yep.
cash out of the deal.
You could do that, well, the thing about
Well,
Nick,
yeah, but he's got a situation right now that the seller does not want to stay in the deal. I'm
well,
trying
for
to,
let me-
$7,000 and 100
me
a month,
kinda-
I bet you they could be talked into it.
well, that's the whole point of of what we're talking
And that's
about
the
here.
whole kind of what we're talking about, because originally the way the deal looked to me in the very first place is I wanted to sub 3 it, and the dude was totally cool with that. Well, then come find out there is an ex-wife on the mortgage,
Yep.
and she is absolutely not cool with that. I mean, and I could kind of see why she was the ex-wife, because she started putting a lot of words in my acquisition guy's mouth, and I was like, he would have never said that, you know, stuff like. So she was definite pill and claiming that you know all the normal, like, this is illegal and you can't do this and all this kind. And we're like, all right, well, let's reanalyze the deal and see what happened. Well, again, then when we thought we had some equity there to flip it and do that, we were like, fine, whatever. Then this repair thing came back, and I was like, we're back to square one where it needs to be sub 3. But that's why I wanted to talk to you and Nick, because I was like, I know you do this thing where you sell the first lien, which would cash out the first thing, and you still make money.
Yeah.
So show me a little bit more about this and how we might be able to structure, because that's about the only way I can see being able to do this. But I'm
Well,
not
I think you
familiar
can
enough
still do
to
that.
it.
At minimum, you're going to need probably call it 3 months. She's going to have to let it sit there for 3 months, because you need to go find that sub 3 buyer. Go get them
Yeah.
done, and then get them underwritten and get them making a payment. Right? It's going to take a little
Right.
bit of time. Okay. And if she's not
Yeah.
willing to do that, then she gets nothing, and she can go just keep the mortgage note and let it go into default or whatever it's going to be. Because she is
Yeah, good luck.
getting
Good luck finding somebody else
$3,500
to take
over.
on this deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
so
is
good luck.
there, and Nick and I know, like, because I'm obviously you're in a rural market, but there's a ton of people out there that aren't bankable that would love to have an opportunity to own a house for, what the hell is the payment over there? $839 a month plus taxes and insurance, right?
Right.
Well, you think, but if you do the marketing, you'll find out.
Well, finding the buyer is not an issue. There's no issue finding a buyer for this. It's all a
I'm not
function of
necessarily
price.
worried about finding the buyer. I was just like, how do I then structure this knowing that she doesn't want to keep that in place? Is there a way to do it while not keeping it in place, but still doing it technically sub 3? And the answer to that is no. That debt needs
Well,
to stay
you
in
could
place.
do it as a contract for deed initially, and then get it done, and just look, at the end of the day, if she doesn't cooperate, she doesn't cooperate, but you got to make it.
Right.
You got to make her an offer she can't refuse. And you got plenty of opportunity to do that. I cannot believe
Okay.
for the life of me that somebody that's going to take $3,500 today won't let you keep that mortgage in place to make $5,000 and get $5,000 instead. I don't believe it. I've been doing this way, way too long.
Yeah.
If somebody's that hard up for $3,500, they're really hard up for $5,000.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
No,
Yeah.
I
I'm dead
completely- and
serious.
I completely get it. Well, we just need to rehave this conversation with them.
Yeah. Well, know what
and
the
just-
model is first and what you're going to do, so you can
But
back into it.
again, I needed to know what, because I'm not used to this type of transaction, and obviously
Right.
after I've spoken to you a couple times, I'm like, all right,
Well,
I
so
need to-
let's just
I need to
talk.
get
So
some more
let's just look at
expertise on
worst
this.
case again. So the worst case scenario is that you cash out of the deal, you make $2,670 and $189 a month for as long as it. So that's your second lien. That's free and clear.
And you'd get first right of refusal to buy the house back if they default. So always do that.
Yeah,
so
and that
let's
would be
just say you're
something else that I'd be like, hey, I need to, I'll pay you for a copy of your contract on how you do that, because that's a whole foreign.
It's easy.
foreign
We
term to me
can
as
show all
well.
that to you, but let's do this real quick here. So I'm just showing this up here. So you've got value on this too. So I'm going to just do 3 years. I'm just going to add a couple calculations here. Equals this amount.
Shit, I found the lender recently, if they have 640 credit, and you can refinance them at like this low rate. It's ridiculous. I'm doing one right now. If I can get that done, that's a whole nother game changer, but it gives you the exit after the exit, even if you want to just become the note holder. But there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah, so I'm just doing this little calculation up here in this peach. I just want to show you what this does, because the principal pay down when you look at the mortgage statement is so low when it's a 10.5% mortgage, which is not a problem on doing this. Times this number here. So let's just look at this real quick. Let's just say for argument's sake, okay, that you have to sell this first lien immediately. And then your profit on the deal is going to be what? It's going to be the $189 a month plus the note balance, right? The note balance, you wrote it. That's
20
profit. That's
grand.
your equity.
Still 20 grand.
So
The free
in a
20
5-year
grand.
model, so if you go up right here to these numbers right here, okay, this is on a second lien payout. Okay, I'm just gonna write second lien up here. Second lien only. Okay, second lien only. What does this mean? It means that in 3 years, if let's just say that borrower refinances, pays it off, sells it, whatever, in 3 years, okay, they're going to call the bank for the payoff. Who's the bank? You're the bank. And they're going to say, I need the payoff on my mortgage. And you're going to come in and say, in 3 years, it's $20,397. Okay. So this deal in 3 years is going to make you $189 a month times 36 months, 6,804, right? Plus the 2,670, which was the cash in on the cash flow, plus the payoff of 2397. This deal with no cash out of pocket after 30 days. Okay. No cash out of pocket.
36 months.
As soon as you sell the first lien, you're completely cash neutral and you have no debt, underlying debt on it. It's all pure profit. This model will yield you 20,397 in 3 years. Okay.
It'll make it 29,000.
Yeah, I'm just saying on the unpaid balance plus the 2,670 plus the thing. So the total on this total is 29,871 total. Okay. That's the total. So I'm not going to do the 5-year. I'm just going to go to the 10-year because it's never going to, because that's probably what it's going to go. So in 10 years, what are you going to get? Well, you're going to get, 189 times 10 years, which is 120 months, right? That's 22,680, 22,680 plus the 2,670 plus the 19,011. In 10 years, this deal was worth a value of 44,361 on a house that was freaking $50,000.
Yeah.
You see, I mean,
and most likely you'll probably buy the dang thing back from the people that you sold it to if you structure it properly and do it again.
You can do that too. So, but my point is that all that extra stuff that Eric's talking about is all icing on the cake in a very simplistic form. This is the cash flow and the lump sum cash payout that you can realize with zero risk of capital and zero risk of anything because you've already cashed completely out of the deal. There is no debt service on this. There's no cash. There's no cash in it anymore. You've already been brought back whole. And this is 100% profitability with infinite return because there's no cost basis on it. So that's the question. So if you look at this model, I say, worst case is I got to sell it tomorrow. I'm going to make this, okay, in 10 years. If I'm able to keep it, I'm going to make this. Look at the difference between you getting to keep the note in place of 126 versus 44. That's why I'm saying when you know that's the outcome, how much are you willing to give back to the seller to allow you to keep this? Because it doesn't cost, this right here doesn't cost the seller anything. It doesn't cost them a nickel.
Right.
In fact, I would make the argument you're making it, you're doing a very important service to the seller because guess what you're doing? You're making the payment on their behalf on time, period. It's building their credit.
Yeah,
file.
and then their fear is, well, gosh, I have 2 mortgages in my name. Yeah, well, that's actually doing probably because the wife's a little crazy. You're doing her a favor by showing her credit, having a positive payment.
Well, anyway,
Right.
those
Yeah.
are the issues that you need to resolve and figure out the math, what you're willing to give up, right? Because
Okay.
there's a big difference between leaving the mortgage in place and making 540 a month versus not leaving the mortgage in place and only making 190 a month. So I'm saying here, you're looking at a difference of $350 a month. How much of that $350 a month are you willing to give away to keep this in place? Because to me, I damn near would give it all away. And here's the reason why. Because that's the reason why right there.
Yeah.
Because they're not getting the benefit of the principal pay down.
No, you're
and the
just giving
increase in
them,
equity.
you're just giving them monthly. You're not
Give them a little bit of cash.
you're getting the principal, you're
Look, if I gave them-
structuring the
just
principal
do the
pay down.
math. Let's just say I gave them $300 a month for the next 10 years. Okay, 300 a month times
Still made
300 a month
98,000, yeah.
no, 300 a month times 120 months is $36,000. So let's just look 10 years out. If I was to give them $36,000 over the next 10 years, what do I get back in return? Well, I get $126,000.
Yeah.
That's the end game, right? I mean, there's some of this cash
And
flow
then
would get
you
adjusted a
could
little
sweeten
bit.
the deal and give them the 300 or 200 or whatever. And then that
You're not going
always
to have to do that though.
They're
First of
all-
all, you're
no.
not going to have to give them 300.
No, but
So-
they're always, but you could, and then go into them like 6 months later.
But
and
you
say,
don't.
"Hey,"
But you're not going to. You're going to give them $100 a month, maybe
yeah.
$100 a month, pays their cable bill, their phone bill, or whatever. Remember, that's net. So that means how much do they got to make? If they're in a 40% tax bracket, well, they're probably not in a 40% bracket. Let's say they're in a 25% tax bracket. That means they got to make $400 a month. Is that right? No.
These people, where are they going to make an extra $1,200 a year for doing nothing? These types,
Net.
this seller.
$1,200 a year net. How much do they get to earn at a 25% tax bracket to make net $1,200? What is that? Another $5,000?
Yeah.
Is that about what it is? Something like that.
Yeah.
More than 1,200.
Since I'm on my phone, I can't use my calculator. So I don't.
Yeah,
No, that's
sorry.
fine. 1,200 divided by 0.25, $4,800. So they got to make another $4,800. I don't think that's right.
That's wrong. It's like $500 extra they'd have to make to get that.
$1,600. Yes.
Yeah.
They got to make $1,600 gross. Then net 1,200. Give or take.
Yeah.
So they're getting it. What do you, ask them where they want to be.
It's
They
not,
might
it's
say-
not like you're leaving the mortgage with your ex-husband who may or may not make that payment. You're leaving it with another investor that has a full incentive of doing it, has history, knows what they're doing, and has a system in place,
Well, worst
Right,
case scenario, you should have no issue getting them to do the sub 3 and keep it in there for 60 days while you go find the buyer and do
and then
this
go back and
model
renegotiate.
and then redo
And
it
then,
out. At
yeah.
the end-
So it is possible if we absolutely had to go in and be like, look, because of the repairs, yada, 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 we need to restructure. And this is kind of what we're thinking to do. We need to find a buyer. You're going to have to leave this mortgage in place for at least 3 months until we can find the buyer. And then, if they're like, and if she starts going, well, what about cash out? What cash out? If we absolutely had to, we could then sell the first lien and do like what you're talking about. Now, obviously that doesn't want to be our first play, but it is possible to do it that way. And
You don't have to
still
tell her,
makes
you don't have to
sense.
tell her, you don't have to tell her you're selling the first lien. You just tell her,
Yeah,
we're gonna
so-
get
and
rid of your note.
I kind
Yeah, you
of
don't need
went
to do
from
any
the
of that.
conversation with her to you, but what I'm saying is if we absolutely had to do it that way, it still makes sense. It's not stupid to do that.
Well, I mean, there's no question that the only way I would personally do this deal would be in a sub 3 and the mortgage has to stay in place for at least a minimum amount of time to get all that established so I can turn
Sure.
around and sell that note. It has to be. And
Okay.
if they're not willing to do that, then it's a no deal. But I know
Sure.
from experience, the likelihood of them doing that is extremely high, especially if you're coughing up $7,000
Is
cash from this
there,
deal.
yeah, because you can close on it and give them $7,000 now.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
an option. It's like an
Now
option.
you
fee.
now you own it, so they'd have to foreclose on you if they want. No, is the property vacant?
No,
there's
I
somebody
do
in the
believe
property.
there is somebody in the property.
But it's not them.
So here's another
It's
question
the
for you
husband,
guys.
yeah.
Oh, the husband,
Other
but if
que-
once the husband gets $7,000 and they do whatever they do, he's out.
He's gone, yeah.
Okay,
So let me ask
then-
you this, guys. I mean, I'm probably gonna be the one presenting this, so excuse me, I'm just having a thought experiment here. So we're talking about 90 to 120 days, the mortgage stays in place before she gets out, right?
Yep.
So I can incentivize her in some fashion and say,
Give her another
Uh,
$1,000 and when
look,
you pay it
every
off.
month that it stays in place, he's 7,000, he's gone. Right? He
She
doesn't
doesn't
care.
get
He'll-
anything?
Huh?
She
And
doesn't.
Yeah, are
get-
they
I'm
not?
I'll tell her, look, for every month, beyond the closing date, you're gonna get a check for $300. For every month, this thing stays in place until we get cashed out.
Or, yeah, start low and give her high or whatever, yeah.
Whatever,
I mean,
that's
three-
all part of the negotiation.
Yeah,
Or-
we've
or-
already talked to her a couple
Or you
times,
could
and
say,
she's not-
hey, we weren't able to get the best deal, but now we've structured it in a way, I'll give you 200 a month perpetually until the thing, I mean, this is $200 that's a lot of money, man. For those people.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Here's the other question. What the hell are they gonna do with this if you don't buy it?
Right.
Now that they know there's $40,000 in repairs that needs to be done.
Or more.
Mhm.
I mean, seriously, I'm being I'm being a little lax.
Has
on
the
some of
has the
repairs, too.
ex-wife seen pictures of this property recently? Has she been into this house recently? Does she have any clue that it needs $40,000 in repairs before you started negotiating? Highly unlikely.
Yeah, she
Right?
probably does not know.
No clue. Yeah, you need to you need to give her the clue and show her the $40,000 repair bill and all the pictures that go along with it to support it, and then see what her tune is at that point in time. Look, we're here to help solve people's problems. If they don't
Yeah,
want
and
to
they got
have
a
their
big
problems solved, then we're not the right buyer for them, right? Period. So,
Correct.
but I'm saying that based on this, take everything else out of the equation. All right. You have to diffuse that situation. The question you need to ask yourself is is it worth pursuing this deal? If worst case is I do all this and I make $190 a month in cash flow and $2,600 in cash, is it worth doing the deal for that with no risk? Only you can answer that, right?
Right.
It's a pretty small deal, but the potential upside gain is potentially getting something between 3 and 10 years out of it. Then it might be something worth considering, because if the worst thing is this what you get, $2,670 and $190 a month, that's the worst thing that can happen. But the best thing can happen is this. I would think you would want to do that. I mean, I would.
And
mean,
that's
even if this
why
is-
I wanted to
e-
bring that to you, because I'm
Even
like,
if this is even if the likelihood of this happening is only 20%, you do 5 of them, you're going to hit it on one of them. And it's not like you're losing money doing this model over here. It's not like you're losing. It's just isn't the
Right.
highest and best use of your time. But you got to, here's the other thing you got to take in consideration. You've already sailed that ship with the seller, right? You've already been putting time and energy
Yeah.
into this deal, right?
Yeah.
So now the
Yeah.
question is, how much more time and energy is it going to take to generate $190 a month and $2,600? Not that much. Not really. I mean, you're gonna have to go find
Right.
the buyer, but look, you're not gonna spend any money on rehab. You're not gonna deal with contractors 2 hours away or whatever. You
Right.
just come in and find the buyer. And if you can't find the buyer, then you just walk away, period. I mean, you
Yeah.
get this contract and you get the seller that's living in a house and say, dude, we're gonna start sending people over. The sooner we get somebody to say yes, the sooner you get your money and you get to go do whatever you're gonna do. They'll help you. If not, then you're not the buyer from them, period. So anyway, this is not a great deal, obviously, but it's
Right.
a deal that can be done because there's hundreds and hundreds of these deals out there. This deal right there, they're a dime a dozen. You don't even need to go spend money on marketing to find these deals. Because who else is going to buy this deal? Is a wholesaler going to take
Right.
this deal for these numbers?
They're gonna try.
What's
But they
the
won't.
population of the city that this house is in?
About 15,000.
So well, it's not
horrible.
It's big enough.
Yes,
I mean,
but
it's
gosh,
the
my
county, it's the
question-
county seat, and there's industry there.
my-
Automotive industry, it's growing, there's a Volvo plant, there's car seat manufacturers, there's.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff in that area. So my question is this. It's a real simple question. If a wholesaler is going to come in and buy this house or control this house under contract, what would their maximum allowable offer be on this property?
Hmm.
If you're a wholesaler and you're
Yeah.
going to take and you're going to tie this property up and go, assuming you could even find a buyer for it, what is it? What's your maximum allowable offer going to be? Matt, it's probably what in that area, maybe 70, maybe. So let's give it the benefit of doubt, 75%. So the maximum, and let's say it's 140. So 140 times 0.75 is 105 minus $40,000 in repairs. That's $65,000.
Yeah.
That's it. What was your initial cash offer when you offered him cash on this deal? Did you even have one?
No. I mean, we do the Brad Smotherman, what's the least you would take kind of thing. And then we got him down
50,
to
64.
Was
yeah.
64,000?
Yeah, it was 54 and 10. And then we got him to concede another $3,000. So we're at about 61 right now.
61.
So, I mean, wholesaler's probably not going to make that happen. If that's the case, then just put it under contract and go find a wholesale that you can flip it to. Make 5 doing that. That's an
Yeah.
option too. I don't think it exists though. I don't think at that price point it happens. So anyway, I'll send this over to you. You can run the model and see. You just need to ask yourself the question, is it worth the squeeze to go down and do this? But once you have this established and you know what that's going to look like, they're not that difficult to create. So
Okay.
I just know that I'll give you guys it sounds like you guys have been doing deals for a while, but I had a deal just pay me out last month that was similar to this. It was just a small little lien. In fact, I didn't even charge interest on it. It just accrued for 11 years. And I just got a payoff for like 58 grand that I'd forgotten about. So that's what happens to these. You're like, oh shit. Yeah.
Yeah, that house.
You're like, you're like, well, during the crash, right? I was like, shit, I just gave the house back to the seller. I did a subject to lease option back to the current owner and pre-foreclosure, whatever. And then all of a sudden, I look out, I'm like, God, I still have this lien. So I went and renegotiated with them, get them to sign a new lien, a new deal. And then, but this is what happens with these. They just keep, well, right now, gosh, we have 100 loans. No, not 100, 70 some loans or 60 some loans that were contract for deeds that have been in place for over 10 years. And they haven't paid down they don't use the amortization. When you start playing around with the amortization, you're like, this $198 when you're running a wholesaling and fix and flip business is not exciting. And all of a sudden, but you still building up. Ask Nick. We figured out he lost about $6 million by not creating a second.
Wow. That'll hurt.
Because he did it in volume, right? He's like, and we're like, dude, how many of those did you just discount the note for the first lien and not keep a second? And it was like, we were conservatively going over the other night, like 500 deals. So you add that up over 60 months it was a big number. And he's like, that's why we're sharing this because of the environment we're in for real estate, the opportunity. Like when you have fixed debt that you can either take over or control and then create these little seconds, like and we already know how to negotiate with sellers. It's
this is a no equity deal that this is being done on. This is a no equity deal. There's zero equity in this deal.
Well, think about the
If
ones
you were to
that have
sell
equity.
this to a realtor, you'd be writing a check. The seller would be writing a check.
Yes.
Oh, I'm a firm believer in, again, I remember when you showed me this model the first time on that, conference call we went, I was like, oh my God, this is genius. Like, because you're basically able to create something out of air, which is so awesome. And that's when my model, and yes, to answer your question, I don't know if Nick knew this or not, but I've been flipping for close to 10 years now. And so but I know that I'm missing because I'm not structuring. It's just like, hey, it either works with the rehab, flip and sell retail, or it doesn't work at all.
But
And so that's
think
what
about
I'm missing.
Yeah, think about 5 years from now, you keep doing exactly what you're doing, but you still have to keep doing exactly what you're doing. But hypothetically, you just add this $198 deal to and wake up 5 years from now. And if you've been flipping for as long as you have, you're actually going to do more volume because this is something no one's doing. So God forbid you pick up one a month for the next 60 months. That's $12,000 a month.
Yeah, I'll take that all day.
I mean,
This
is on a 60.
That covers some expenses.
But look at, this is on a
Yeah.
$54,000 UPB. What if this was on a $150,000 UPB and it was 3 times this?
Yeah.
All right.
Now,
Now all these numbers are 3 times what they are.
Yeah.
There was one thing that I noticed that I think there might be an error, and it might throw the whole thing off. He claimed his monthly payment was $502.
It's probably because he's got taxes and insurance escrow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So we take
Thank you.
P&I and we sell it with P&I and then we add taxes. That's the thing.
Okay.
So we don't pay
right.
taxes. They do.
Right. Okay. All right. That was the only.
Yeah, it's
that was
just a
the only
pass-through.
discrepancy.
Like I have a deal right now I did in Phoenix. My wife and I she was looking at it because she doesn't really understand the cash flow because she doesn't see these things ever, except in the bank. Like we have a deal. I took over payments for $706 a month, PITI, and I sold it for $1,852 a month.
Wow.
Dang. Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah,
well, that's
on the sales side, it really opens up what I'm able to do and how I consider a deal with a seller while I'm on the phone with them.
And think about here, I'll tell you one thing. When you take over someone's payment and you sub to it, and then you create the first and second, and God forbid the sub to gets called due, you have an exit, right? You can sell the note, especially if you underwrite it properly. The second thing is, God forbid, you meet with a seller and they're like, do you know what that $100 a month would do? Like literally, I have a guy who moved into a retirement home and he gets his check for 100 or 150 bucks a month. And it's like, I took over his VA loan and arbitraged it like crazy. And he gets his $150 a month check in the mail. He's never made that kind of money probably in his life for doing nothing. And it's just like, there's a lot of good there. And then obviously you get to sell this to someone who's not bankable. So it's just like, to me, and then you go buy this house. This will be the coolest case study is you go buy this house in 6 months and that person put $5,000 down and then they put their own sweat equity into it to make it habitable and cool. And now they just created a $150,000 house or 140. They only owe you 98, So now they have equity. You think they're going to walk away from that equity? No. What happens to me with my guys, they keep paying me more principal, which I don't want because I just want to keep collecting that amortization,
Right. And that's why I wanted Paul to jump on this as well, because he handles most of my acquisitions now, and me trying to explain something I'm not completely familiar with, I'm just going to get, muddier and muddier. So, Paul, if you've got any other questions to ask them real quick, I don't
want to get too deep in the weeds. You and I are going to have to kind of hash this out about how we present this, but yeah, this is pretty amazing when I see the pivot table.
I don't think it's any different than how you would present a traditional sub 3 deal, to be quite honest with you.
Hey, can I ask you guys an opinion? So,
sure.
So Nick and I have our network is broad, right? And we have you guys